Alright, before we even get it started, I need y'all to like, subscribe, share with the homies, homeboys, homegirls, baby mamas, and wife, children, nieces, aunties, uncles, and nephews. Yeah, let's just do that. Like, subscribe, and share. Alright, so we talking about PBC Volume 1 we're still on. And we're on Episode 1. Because remember, y'all, I want to be very, very specific. Premier Boxing Champions is a television show and it needs to be documented day by day, week by week. We're not going to do day by day. We will do this weekly on Thursdays just so that we get the ball rolling. But I really don't want to focus on a year in review. I'm still trying to focus on how I want to format this, all right? So what we're going to do is we're just going to focus on episode 1 because I feel like episode 1 is actually the most captivating and eye-catching card that they had in that year. Hold on, guys. Bear with me. I'll explain it to you. Alright, so now if we look at this card right here, right? This is the opening card, and this is actually in Las Vegas, right? We have the likes of Keith Thurman actually going after his first real world title, right? And it's against Robert the Ghost Guerrero, man, who has challenged Floyd Mayweather for his belt. And this fight is actually for Floyd Mayweather's vacant WBA title. So why wouldn't we want to see that as the main event, right? Well, maybe we wouldn't want to see it as the main event because we also had Adrian, the problem Broner, on the fight in kind of a comeback fight. There was still a lot of questions on Adrian Broner at the time. Does he have a chin? Does he still want to box? Does he want to rap? Does he have a passion for boxing? Is he fully dedicated to the sport? In hindsight, I think we don't know the answer. Abner Mares was still a big name at the time. And then we have a young, promising prospect. Robert Easter Jr. is also on this card. If I missed anybody with the names that were on this card, please feel free to share in the comments and let me know what you thought of this. This was actually on NBC. It was the debut of Premier Boxing Champions. It's episode 1. So let's break down the aftermath. Well, not the aftermath. Let's just break down the fight and how it was going to go. Now, like I said, we had a young, hungry Keith Thurman who still thought that if he beat Robert Guerrero, that he would be getting a matchup versus Floyd Money Mayweather. He would cash in his ticket at it as a young lion to go after Floyd Mayweather. Now, at this time, I really feel like Keith Thurman was at the age of 27, I want to say. A 27-year-old Keith Thurman was out here ripping things apart. This was really when he was one time. Like, all he had to do was touch you. One time, you was out of there. And he had sparked Leonard Bundu to fight before. So we was looking forward to seeing him knock out Robert the Ghost Guerrero. Now, Robert the Ghost Guerrero, on the contrary, although he was a little bit older, and some people see him as long in the tooth. Now, I'm just going to be honest. Robert Guerrero is really a blown-up 130 or 126 at that. I could be wrong. He had no business being at welterweight. But he was there, and he stuck around, and he was in some pretty good scraps. But he had to face off against Keith Thurman for the full WBA Super title. And on the undercard, I think this was the first and last time that Adrian Broner was on network TV. Now, he did fight on Spike Television, but Spike TV at the time, I think is now Paramount. Spike TV was not network television. That was premium cable. So, network television. This was a major deal. For you to be on Channel 4, if you live in New York, that is where NBC is shown. For you to be on Channel 4 and you get to see Keith Thurman and Adrian Broner on the same card, and the opening fight is Abner Mares. He's the workhorse of the card. I'm not going to highlight his fight or whatever. We already know Abner Mares is in the war and his defense is his face. But for you to see these two fighters, right? And if you think about the way boxing is built up, you would usually put two guys that might face off against each other at some point in time on the same card. You're going to stack the card with them, one being... Actually, this is the co-main event, right? Because at the time, Adrian Broner, popularity-wise, was more popular than Keith Thurman, if we can be all and quite honest. He was the most popular boxer outside of a Canelo Alvarez, maybe, and a Floyd Mayweather. He probably was number 3 popularity-wise boxer. He probably should have been closing the show, but he didn't have a belt at the time. So Keith Thurman is there to carry the weight. Adrian Broner is there. John Molina. This is supposed to be a guy that Adrian Broner is supposed to be able to show that he still has a jaw, because John Molina was known as a brawler and a slugger and a hard hitting guy. So he was there to pause, test Adrian Broner's chin. So in this fight with Keith Thurman versus Robert the Ghost Guerrero, he turned the boy into a ghost. But no. I want you guys not to get this confused though. Keith Thurman did strike Robert the Ghost Guerrero down, excuse me. And when he did, we all thought it was over. We thought the ghost was gonna get ghosted. He was gonna get put his lights out, and get sent to the upper room. But that didn't happen. What happened was we actually saw Keith Thurman get some resistance, and he was in there with a live dog. I think he did end up putting him down one time. He got a crazy hematome from a head collision, which was nasty. He ended up winning the fight. But there were a lot of things to question about Keith Thurman. One being, what if Keith Thurman couldn't get a guy who was a little bit longer in the tooth out of there? What would happen if he was in there with somebody who was as fresh as he was? Keith Thurman was the guy who was famous for coining the phrase that he was a real live walking welterweight. He said any other real live walking welterweight could not beat him in the ring. And we wanted to know what a real live welterweight would be able to do against him, because we just seen a guy who really didn't belong in the ring with him not get sparked out. So the name one time was kind of shaky. Maybe we were thinking it was sometime. And on the other hand, Adrian Broner went out there, and it actually, I'm going to tell you guys this. Watching this fight, I was like, damn, AB is so talented, because he kept the defense tight. He had great lateral movement, explosive. He boxed very well, and whatever his bad habits were, they seemed to kind of fade when it came to this fight. But we have to be kind of honest. Adrian Broner at this point, if he was a B plus fighter, John Molina was barely a C. I'll give him a C minus, just to be nice. He was just a brawler and a junkyard dog. I like that term. He was a junkyard dog. Let's just say that. He was a junkyard dog, and although he would be an entertaining fight against somebody who was of equal skill level, and it would be a fan favorite fight, frenzy fight that would get the crowd and casual boxing fans reeled in, which is what you want to happen on network TV. It didn't do much of that. Adrian Broner just boxed a clean fight and just showed that this guy wasn't really on his level. I think he might have got caught clean maybe by half of a punch, and it showed that maybe he wasn't afraid of power anymore, and he did let his hands go. But we all know we shouldn't have been fooled by AB. And I was fooled by AB, I'm not going to lie. I thought maybe AB and Keith Thurman might be next. And no lie, this is actually the stage right here. This whole setup was crazy. This is always going to be the setup that we put up for our PBC Chronicles. So when we look back at it, right, we kind of look at these fights and we say, wow, there was a lot to be excited about. You know, you got a new look. You have boxing on network TV. You could literally throw away that premium cable bill if that's all you were on premium cable for when it came to boxing, right? It was just for boxing, right? We only wanted to watch HBO because of boxing. We only even cared about Showtime because Floyd Mayweather jumped ship and went over there because of boxing. We didn't care about premium cable. So guess what? We wanted to watch regular boxing on network TV on a Saturday night. Maybe a Sunday afternoon, maybe a Friday night. We didn't know what to expect, but that opening show kind of had us intrigued and wanting more. So make sure you guys stay tuned for next week, and let's see what episode 2 with PBC was like. Even if we do an episode 2, we might not do an episode 2. We might just do revisionist history on the first month. We really just had to do episode 1 because it was just jam-packed with names. Peace.